All right, welcome officially to our first free talk, free masterclass of the year. And my name is Lindsay Cantu. I got Coach Leah Bartow here with me. And our goal with this talk is to give you a bird's eye view of what the heck is going on with BirthFit and our philosophy and our methodologies, and give you some pearls of wisdom that you can walk away with even if you don't ever train with us. you know um we want you to have tools and take on radical responsibility, take on ownership, and be able to do your thing. But it's also more fun to train with a group and with people. So yeah. All right, before we get into the slideshow, the nerdy stuff, I want to kind of set the tone. So if you can, I want you to close your eyes and take 3 breaths with me. You're going to inhale through your nose, expand your rib cage, fill up, and then audible exhale if you can. You can even like shake your jaw a little bit. We're going to do that again. Big inhale and open mouth exhale. And once more. And longest exhale of the day. And before you open your eyes, I want you to feel your feet on the ground. Baby toe, big toe, heels. And just know that that ground is right there and it's got you. All right, now open your eyes. You're present here with us. And last thing before we get started in the nerdy stuff, throw in the chat box if you can one thing you're grateful for today. And I'll share mine. I am super grateful for BirthFit, for having this journey of BirthFit, and something that I started. I was on a Dr. Stu's podcast yesterday, and it's crazy. We were reminiscing how I started BirthFit in 2013. Like that is a way long time ago. And I absolutely needed all 10, 11, 12 years of BirthFit in order to have the amazing, blissful birth experience I had. There was a lot of unlearning that needed to happen and relearning and syncing up with different mentors. So I'm really grateful for this journey. I'm grateful to be here with y'all and grateful for all the women that I've served so far. Ew. Family close by is pretty clutch. Yes. Grateful for this opportunity to learn. Heck yeah. All right. So let's dig in. Let's share a screen, especially with 4 kids. Heck yeah. I have one, and I'm grateful for my mom that lives down the road. She lives like 20 minutes away. All right, let's see if we can go full screen, share, slideshow. All right, everybody see this okay? Sweet. Okay, like I said, if you have any questions, throw them in the chat box. I will do my best to keep this under an hour and answer any questions. Like I said, this is going to be a bird's eye view. So you may have specifics that you want answered, and we're more than happy to answer that. All right, this is going to be about our philosophy and methodology that we've started with, we evolved with over the last decade plus years. Like I said, I'm Dr. Lindsay Matthews Cantu. I'm a chiropractor. I've been a strength and conditioning coach. I'm a birth doula. I'm an NLP practitioner, a yoga instructor, BirthFit CEO and founder. But the coolest jobs I have right now are Vera's mom and Lance's wife. I do need to say that. No, but those are really cool jobs, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to fully step into those roles. I'm going to call on Leah right now to introduce herself, if she's available.
I'll do my best here. I'm Leah. Good morning, and happy to see all of your faces this morning. We are Zooming and homeschooling, so forgive me if I look like I'm going back and forth a little bit. So I, as Lindsay said, wife and mom, 2 most important roles. I've got 2 kiddos, 6 and 4, and I am also, there's one. I'm also a gym owner, strength and conditioning coach. With BirthFit, I do a lot of the online programs, writing the programs, making sure that they're running smoothly, efficiently, and looking as pretty as possible. And also a birth doula, birth educator, and really just a lover of all things women, birth, and movement. So obviously BirthFit ties all of those things in seamlessly, and that is why I'm here and have been here for as long as I have.
Sweet. Very grateful to have Leah. I wouldn't ask just anyone to help write the BirthFit programs. That's why I love her. So let's get into it. We coach women within the motherhood transition. Like our focus is the motherhood transition, right? Preconception, pregnancy, and that first year postpartum. A business coach might say that's crazy to just focus on that. But that's what I've been focusing on for, the last decade plus. And we really focus on integrating our lifestyle pillars, our 7 lifestyle pillars, which are written right here: sun, sleep, nutrition, fitness, mindset, community, and spirituality. And we want to optimize those in whatever season or chapter you're in so that you have the tools to be the best version of you. Obviously, fitness is kind of like the gateway drug that leads everybody here. And we love movement, and movement is a necessary ingredient of life. Absolutely. So let's see if I can hit next. There we go. So back in the day, whenever I first started BirthFit, I was, being a chiropractor, a strength and conditioning coach. This was all in Los Angeles, which is wild, to think that that's where I started. Los Angeles, and birth doula, chiropractor, and kind of at the bridge of the coach, doula, chiropractor life. And what I saw, especially with doctors, midwives, everybody in the birth working scene, is they just didn't know fitness. They didn't understand it. They didn't care to know fitness. And there was this barrier between the women that were super fit, maybe they were triathletes, CrossFitters, dancers, Olympic athletes, whatever. And then there was this other softer fitness, but it was in the realm of yoga, prenatal yoga, Kundalini yoga. And that was what was recommended for birth. People were scared of fitness. And I was just like, what's going on? Like our ancestors moved, a ton. And how did we go into being sedentary? And now we're kind of picking apart somebody that's too fit to give birth. So what I saw, the 3 biggest things I saw, because I was working, I was interning, I was being an associate, I was learning from some of these amazing teachers in Los Angeles, and they wanted to blame too much fitness on the woman for her pelvic floor not relaxing, or labor stalling out, or they wanted to blame miscarriage. So fitness became the scapegoat. And it was the easiest thing to remove from somebody's lifestyle, let's say, if they were having trouble getting pregnant. It also became the easiest thing to blame if somebody was actually, intermediate to advanced fitness level and their labor didn't go as desired. So fitness is a scapegoat. The other 2 things I saw were women were completely disconnected from their body, basically from the neck down. They didn't want to feel. And women got into CrossFit, they got into triathletes, they got into being professional athletes because they're really good at numbing out. They're really good at enduring pain. And I really believe that birth does not have to be painful. Like my birth experience was not painful. I would never use the word pain to describe it. But we've been programmed that way to endure pain, or birth is painful, from our society, from our culture. And I really believe that the women that are exceptional athletes go into labor with this idea that they can endure pain and they can outwork labor. And that's the disconnect from their body. They weren't feeling safe in their body. The nervous system, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is kind of the master controller that lets us know we're safe or unsafe in various places, various experiences. So if we feel unsafe and we're dissociating from our body or we're disconnected, then of course the pelvic floor is not going to relax. It's going to stay super tight and be like, oh, this is not a good place to have a baby. The other thing I saw was that women weren't training efficiently or effectively. They were only training in one plane of motion. And this could either be spinning, like Soul Cycle was super big in LA back in the day. I don't know if it's big where y'all are. But indoor spinning, that was a big one. And then if you look at triathletes, like that was big in Los Angeles, running, and if they're marathon runners, professional runners, whatever, running is only in one plane of motion. So cycling, running, and then if you have CrossFitters, a lot of the like straightforward CrossFit movements are only in one plane of motion, which all of these hang out in the sagittal plane of motion. Birth does not happen in one plane of motion. Birth happens in all planes of motion. It's a dance between mom and baby kind of like corkscrews their way out. So we've got to be comfortable in all planes of motion, movement, and embrace a little fluidity. So those were the big things I saw: disconnect from body, not feeling safe in their body, not training efficiently or effectively, and then using fitness as the scapegoat. So I wanted to change that. I wanted to make fitness more approachable, and I wanted it to be the bridge for, I wanted BIRTHFIT to be the bridge for fitness, birth, and wellness. So the biggest goals I had back then were to enhance a woman's connection between her brain and body. You've heard the word embodiment probably all over Instagram now. Like people are getting into the nervous system. It's really good stuff. But literally, it's connecting brain and body and like seeing what your body has to tell you today. Movement is a conversation with our body, and it will present symptoms, it will present signs, it will present something in some other language, and we have to learn to decipher it. I wanted to present and come up with balanced training. Okay, yes, we can do lunges this way straight on, but can we do some side lunges too? Can we exist in the coronal, the frontal plane here? Or could we, get a little rotation going on? Maybe just do a little hip circles in our warm up. That was strange. That was foreign, but we added that in. And then I wanted to focus on the nervous system. I wanted to have a nervous system focused, intentional training so that women started to feel at home and connected with their bodies through general strength and conditioning, not just through something like Kundalini yoga or some other practice. We've all heard of the fear, tension, pain cycle when it comes to birth. And, that's absolutely relevant. Like if we experience any sort of pain or any sort of fear, we're going to tense up, and that's going to make things more painful. It's just not going to be pleasant. But when we feel safe, we're able to relax, we're able to open, we're able to expand, we can breathe baby down and out. So, all right. Now, here's some real talk. Motherhood requires fitness. Jenna, with 4 kiddos, probably knows this better than any of us right now because she's probably chasing all of them around. I used to say, do whatever you feel. Whenever I first started coaching, I would coach this 9 a.m. class, and it was always, predominantly women, mothers across the board, or fathers. And just work with the body you have today. Do whatever you feel. But y'all, motherhood requires fitness. And each chapter of motherhood, I don't want to say it gets a little easier, but you gain a lot more confidence. You're able to approach each chapter, each season optimally. You are coming at it from a better version of yourself. So let's look at preconception. Preconception training needs to be tuned in with our cycle. I did a whole preconception pop-up on, I think it was November of last year, but it's available in our shop. On the most like basic level, we don't need to be training the same every day of our cycle. We definitely need to be synced up with our circadian rhythm, which is similar to men, but we don't need to be doing the same intense fitness workout every day like men do. Men can do the same workout every day. Like my husband could do CrossFit every day and feel like a champ. You know, not me. Like I'm gonna burn my adrenals out. I'm gonna deplete myself. Days 1 through 3 of our cycle, they need to be reflection, inward, a little slower paced. Then, as estrogen starts to rise, our energy picks back up. It's a great time to start kind of like ramping up your energy, ramping up your training. It's a great time to lift weights. Ovulation, which is mid cycle, we kind of like think of it as the summer season. It's a really fun time to try new classes or to go for a personal record or a personal best. And then you get the luteal phase, which is the second half of the cycle. And I like to think of it as like two phases, two halves. The first half of the luteal phase, I consider like, okay, let's be disciplined, show up, you got this. And then the second half of the luteal phase, I give myself more permission to slow down. You know, as you start to approach your bleed again, go with the flow, embrace a little slowness, give yourself permission to nap if you need, or go on a walk instead of a run. One of the biggest things here is strength training enhances DHEA, which is like a precursor to sex hormones. And this is one of the biggest things I've come across in working with women and that are going through IVF or IUI, and just adding minimum 2 days a week of strength training. And it can be super basic, like squat, hinge, carry, those kind of deals. So that's preconception, prenatal training. Oh my goodness. You're weight bearing. You are weight bearing, and it's only going to get more weight bearing. You're going to be carrying a load. And if it's your first pregnancy, you're going to be carrying a load. If it's your second pregnancy, you're going to be carrying a toddler and a load. If it's a third, you're going to be carrying all the kids and a load out front. But prenatal training needs to balance your body front, back, and side to side. You know, if we think of the pelvic floor like a hammock, we're weight bearing mammals, and we absolutely need to learn and be efficient at carrying load. And if we're, you know, one side dominant where we only hold a kiddo on one side, or maybe we come from a sport background and we're a volleyball player and all we do is one side, well, our fascia is going to be different from side to side. Our patterns are going to be different from side to side. So prenatal training, I like to think of it as prehab for birth, prehab for the body. And the biggest thing, you know, besides balance and strength and range of motion, is I want you to feel nourished and connected in your body. Because when you complete that training day with us and you go out there, I want you to feel confident and love your body so much. Because when you love your body so much, you're going to trust your body, and that's going to carry over into birth. Like I mentioned earlier, birth is a dance, it's dynamic, it requires movement. I don't think there's much more to say there. Postpartum, oh my goodness. Okay, so we did rehab or prehab. Now we're doing rehab. Postpartum rehab is absolutely necessary. And we at BirthFit love a 30-day line in period or rest period. It definitely gets harder the more family members you have. But, you know, the first month needs to be slow and intentional. I do believe it's the great equalizer for every woman. You know, it doesn't matter if you are a reigning CrossFit Games champion, best soccer player in the world, fastest 800-meter runner. You need to embrace the slowness. You're never going to get that sacred time back. And how you care for yourself, how you nurture yourself in that first 30 days influences the bond between mom and baby, influences your breast milk supply, and influences your health as a woman later on in life. It will definitely influence your transition into menopause. And then on the most simple terms, like you have to rehab before going back to whatever sport or training you like. Like we know, like, okay, if somebody has an ACL surgery, they know exactly what they're doing when they wake up from surgery. I had ACL surgery back in 2000, and I woke up and my knee was in a range of motion machine. I knew what I was doing 3 weeks later. I knew what I was doing 3 months later. 6 months, I was finally allowed to run in a straight line. Couldn't do the curves, but I could run in a straight line. So rehab is absolutely necessary, and there's no universal postpartum rehab in our country. And so that's actually where I started with BirthFit, was the postpartum series and creating that program. We do believe that, okay, we got the lying in period, the first 4 weeks, the 30 days. Then we go to the BirthFit basics, which are 15 movements and poses based on developmental kinesiology and foundational human movement. You can find all the BirthFit basics on YouTube, or you can do the program with us. But we'll get into that a little bit too. So postpartum rehab. And then go back to whatever sport you love. All right. So like I said, we need to have a base level of fitness in order to be the most effective, optimal versions of ourselves. I forgot to mention this earlier, y'all. I will probably overwhelm you today. And it's only natural. If you want to take notes, take notes. If you just want to be, you'll get the recording. Like I said, it'll be available for 2 weeks. But if you have any questions, let me know. And I guarantee if you're just sitting here listening, you will get some pearls of wisdom dropped in your head. But yeah, I probably will overwhelm you. That's completely normal. All right. So one of my favorite sayings, and it's very real, is we birth how we live. And what I mean by this is birth is like this point on this timeline. And it's a culmination of every life decision, every lifestyle practice, everything up until that point. Not just what you did 3 weeks prior, 6 weeks prior, pregnancy, but is a culmination of everything. And that's what I mean when I say we birth how we live. Our lifestyle habits, our practices, all of that reflects what's going on the inside of us, our intentions, our desires, even our fears, all of that is inside of us. And I like to think of pregnancy as a mirror or the great revealer. And I've seen this with all doula clients and births. At some point, the woman that's birthing your baby will be faced with some sort of fork in the road choice point, and where you're tested on your values and your lifestyle, and really like it'll shake you at your core. This could be in, preconception. This could be sometime in pregnancy. This could be towards the end of pregnancy. Maybe a woman, all of a sudden at 30, 34 weeks, baby's still breech. And mom wanted this home birth, and now this midwife doesn't do breech births. So what are we going to do? Maybe it's like me. I was 36 weeks and my water started leaking. And I was like, wait a sec, what's going on? It challenged me. And when you're so in tune with who you are and your God, nothing will rock you. You will take that fork in the road and you will make choices based on love, your values, your desires, your needs, and not fear. And you will keep going on that timeline. So yes, I had my baby girl at home at 36 weeks. All right. So what do women need for birth? They need to feel safe and unobserved. This is where we're going to get into the nervous system a little bit. As you know, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I geek out on the nervous system, love the nervous system. And I'm really glad people are talking about it on social media now. It's really cool. But our nervous system picks up on environmental cues to let us know we're either safe or unsafe. And that process is called neuroception. And it first looks at people's faces. Actually, like if there's people in the room, it'll look at faces. So, if we can recall the pandemic, the shenanigans of the pandemic, mask. Like if you looked at women that were entering the hospital, and you have your opinions about the scamdemic, that's what I call it. But how birth was handled during that was absolutely brutal. Women were entering the hospital and this is all they saw. So even if a woman felt safe in the hospital, just seeing this, that's kind of sketchy. That's not going to let you feel safe. Or it's going to trigger something in your nervous system, whether subconsciously, and the little yellow flags, the little red flags are going to go up. So if your nervous system does not feel safe, if it perceives a threat, it's going to go through this kind of phylogenetic, this hierarchy of ways to deal with the threat. The first level is like the socialization. And can we negotiate or talk our way out of this? The second level would be the sympathetics. And that's what you've heard of as like fight or flight. Okay, if we can't talk our way out of it, can we run out of this? Can we fight our way out of this? And then the third level, if we can't do either of those, is what you've probably heard of or maybe even experienced, is disassociate or shut down, the freeze, you've heard of this maybe if people are in a really threatening situation, they freeze and maybe they pee all over themselves. Like that is complete nervous system shutdown, but it's their body operating at the range of motion of their nervous system, their capacity, and they're doing what they can to optimize survival, because our nervous system is always trying to optimize survival. Our nervous system is always doing things for us, not to us. Nobody's nervous system failed them during birth. It was doing things for you. But, unfortunately, there's probably external factors that played a role in that. So our nervous system picks up on environmental cues through a process called neuroception to let us know either we're safe or unsafe. Women need to feel safe and unobserved in birth. And these two words were brought to the surface by a French OB named Dr. Michel Audant, who's absolutely brilliant. And when women feel safe and unobserved, they kind of intuitively move and dance and explore their range of motion. They explore the noises they can make. They get primal. So that is, nutshell, kind of what happens or is absolutely necessary for birth. We've got to go back to the nervous system. We can't outwork birth. We've got to work within our capacity so that we can surrender inside of this nervous system range of motion that we have. So within BIRTHFIT, one of the phrases that I like to say is we explore the range of motion of our hips and our shoulders, but also our nervous system. The more we move, the greater the variation, the greater the planes of motion we have access to, the more fluidity we have. And that creates more trust in our bodies. For birth, I was predominantly on hands and knees. If I didn't have the strength to like hold myself up, that would not have worked. I loved being on all fours. So think about that. What positions are absolutely necessary throughout the different kind of like stages of labor. The more vertical positions are absolutely necessary in the beginning. Then as labor progresses, we kind of get horizontal or kneeling or leaning over. I ended up giving birth to my baby in a half kneeling position and then leaned over as the rest of her body came out, but her head came out when I was half kneeling. So the more we enhance the range of motion of our nervous system, the more access we have to different movements, different range of emotion, and our nervous systems become more adaptable and flexible. And those are like words that we love as chiropractors: adaptability, resilience, flexibility. They don't just exist in the fitness world, but it's a continual practice, right, of tapping into who you are, what your body needs today, listening to your body, right? It's a conversation and giving it what it needs or what it's saying no of today. Okay, we'll try something else tomorrow. And then once your body and brain are connected again, you feel safe and at home in your body. Wow, the trust is there. And trust is built over small acts of time. Like, I don't know if anybody's read Brene Brown, but she has the best quotes, or the best definition of trust. It's small acts over time. So if you set a meeting on your calendar, gym time, and you uphold that meeting with yourself, or training time, whatever you want to call it, then you're just going to start to trust yourself again because you kept your word with yourself. Where me, Lindsay, in the past would put, okay, I'm going to go to this fitness class. Doesn't mean anything. I put it on the calendar, doesn't mean anything. Well, then I didn't trust myself. I didn't, the trust that was just like severed. So if we want to feel safe and unobserved, we got to build trust in our bodies through not only training physical range of motion of different joints, but also our nervous system. All right, I get this question all the time. Is it safe? Is this movement safe? Or is that movement safe? Or whatever. Is exercise safe? Y'all, exercise is absolutely safe. Like, it is beneficial on the grand scheme of things. But there's no safe exercises. And whenever somebody says that, whenever I see a tagline for a program or something that says, safety, this program is safe for pregnancy, it's kind of BS. Safety is an illusion, and we are all so different. And it's up to each of us to start doing our own risk to benefit analysis, not only for the diagnostic testing that you may go through during pregnancy, but also the movements that you're doing. There is more risk driving in your car than having a home birth. Like, that's crazy. Um, you know, like I said, safety is an illusion. There's no way to remove all risk, not with exercise, not with birth, not driving, not traveling the world, nothing. The white coat definitely creates an illusion of safety. Things like an ultrasound give an illusion of safety, but those are only a moment in time. Those are a snapshot in a moment of time. Blood tests create an illusion of, oh, I'm healthy, I'm safe, we're good right now. That's only a snapshot in a moment of time. With BirthFit, our goal is to give you information, and then it's up to you. Here's the training day, here's the movements, and it's up to you to take ownership and responsibility of your body and decide, oh, is this appropriate for me today? Because it's really good practice for labor. It's really good practice for stepping into motherhood. All right, y'all, real talk again. We are a sedentary population. You may not be, but a lot of us, a lot of the people next door that exist in our world, a lot of people are sedentary. And I think the sedentariness, the lack of movement has definitely contributed to less than ideal positions of babies in relation to their mom for labor. And, 2-3 generations ago, moms were still moving. They were cleaning houses, they were walking, we weren't so stuck like we are today. I think the more we move, the better. And I'll give you a little recipe here. But these are my general recommendations for pregnancy, for movement. Like I said, you're going to get this PDF, but if you want to snapshot it, you can, whatever. If you're new to exercise and you've never exercised before, move daily. Park the car further at the grocery store. Walk upstairs instead of taking the elevator. Walk 1 to 3 miles throughout the day. It doesn't have to be 3 miles beginning of the day, but can you accumulate 1 mile over the course of the day? Can you accumulate 2 miles and then 3 miles? Can you do 10 squats? Can you do 4 to 10 reps of the BirthFit basics? Like I said, they're on YouTube, they're free. You can go watch them. And then can you practice being connected to your breath? And just set the clock on your phone for 2 minutes and just breathe in and out through your nose. It's amazing what that'll do. Now, If you're a seasoned exerciser, then definitely consider the list on the left and also add in, 10 to 20 minutes of lunges per week or some sort of zone 2 exercise like a long hike or a ruck or a row or a swim. I love 20 minutes of lunges. That might like register me in the psychopath department, but like it's not intense. Like I put on a podcast and just do lunges, or now I chase my little girl, and you're not pushing it. It's just conversational pace. Um, the other thing is 2 times a week of general strength and conditioning. 2 times a week minimum strength training. Like it can be medium to heavy load, medium to higher volume. If you're doing 4, like mix it up with those, and then at least 1 time a week of longer aerobic conditioning, which is more of that zone 2. All right, so postpartum general recommendations. I hit on earlier, lying in, like absolutely, I will not even budge on that. I've become more and more strict on that as I age and work with more and more and more women. It's absolutely necessary. Same thing, 2 to 20 minutes of breath work per day. Just nasal breathing, start with that. There's a ton of apps out there also that offer breath work practices. The BIRTHFIT Basics, that should be the foundational movement piece. There's no load in it. There's no resistance, no weights, nothing. The only load you use is your body. Nutrition and nourishment are going to be key postpartum. Baby wearing walks. Look at Autumn over here. This is nice. Those are kind of like the first weight bearing thing we recommend postpartum. We don't even recommend running until 12 weeks postpartum. And that's after you lay a solid foundation. Incorporate things like pushing, pulling. When you are doing the dishes or household chores, as you start to incorporate more of that, are we operating from a neutral spine? Is our neck, our ears over our shoulders, is our rib cage stacked on top of our pelvis? This is where we prehab and rehab. Life doesn't happen in a neutral spine, but can we train from there? There we go. And then within the postpartum, once we do the BIRTHFIT Basics, we get into our official postpartum training program. And that's where we have the functional movements like the squat, the hinge, the lunge, the push, the pull, the carry. And you see a lot of tempo work, progressive overload, definitely one-sided unilateral work. And then we get into some more dynamic stuff. We start to introduce running or jumping, and we see how the body responds. If you're able to, chiropractic care, pelvic floor PT, acupuncture, rolfing, all those things are great for body work. All right, here's our relative contraindications. And I'm actually not going to go into these because they'll be in your thing, but I want to get into some other stuff and answer questions. So you have relative contraindications for preconception and prenatal training. And you also have relative contraindications for postpartum training. I will hit on this. The biggest thing I see a lot is women doing too much too soon, which exacerbates signs of core and pelvic floor dysfunction, like a prolapse. The other thing is epidural side effects. I see that one a ton. So just something to be mindful of. All right. So when somebody enters the BIRTHFIT world, we literally say we're training for birth. This means mind, body, and soul. And we're not just modifying the workout on the board or whatever our previous coach for whatever season we were in. We're not just adapting that. We're intentionally training for birth, like an Olympian would be training for his 200-meter sprint or the long jump. Like you get more and more specific with training as that Olympic task, as that Olympic event approaches. So, like I mentioned earlier, we train in the neutral spine. Life does not happen in the neutral spine. I absolutely know that. I love training like the strongman movements because it's all over the place. I love dance because my spine's all over the place. But a neutral spine is where babies learn to move from. And a lot of our prehab and rehab is based on developmental kinesiology from DNS, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, in the Prague School of Rehab. And, back when I was working with sports athletes, like professional athletes, actors, actresses, if somebody had a shoulder injury or a knee injury or whatever, we would always go back to the on the developmental kinesiology timeline. We'd always go back to whatever piece of the progression made sense for them, that they could perform without pain, with complete function. And it was always in the neutral spine. And so that's why we train with the neutral spine. Majority of the time, I'll say majority of the time. We train all energy systems, all planes of motion. We focus on 5 of the 10 physical skills. Well, you'll see that in a second. So literally it's general strength and conditioning that we do within the motherhood transition window. We love breath work. We love training barefoot. Like if you're somebody that comes from like a powerlifting background or heavy lifting, Olympic lifting, we put the belt, the shoes, all of that aside just for this season. We know, y'all, birth is full of unknowns. We don't know if it's going to be 3 days, 3 hours. Like I said, we don't know what position you're going to give birth in. Ideally, you trust your body so much, you intuitively go there and you feel comfortable with movement in all planes of motion. That's a goal for you. So I just hit on this, what do we need to train? Literally just your body. Most of our programs have minimal equipment needs. Both our prenatal and our postpartum basics programs, absolutely no equipment is needed. We train in a neutral spine, ideally barefoot or some sort of shoe where you can move your toes and feel the ground. And then let's get into the definition of fitness. I'm trying to get it all in for y'all. So back in the day, whenever I started BIRTHFIT, I literally shared this on the podcast yesterday. I was trying to figure out a name for my business, right? And I was like doodling in a journal, and I kept coming back to BIRTHFIT. I hadn't even tried CrossFit yet, but I came up with this really terrible logo, and it was like birth was written in cursive and then fit was written in all caps. I was like, that makes sense. Like you need to be fit. Like when you're fit for something, you're fully capable, for that event, ready for the unknown. And then lo and behold, I came across CrossFit and I was like, wow, this is cool. Like they're talking about fitness, being ready for the unknown. Definitely when I say the word CrossFit, I get highly polarizing emotions and trigger some people for sure. But they're the only ones that have come up with a legit definition of fitness. And you might be able, yeah, you should be able to click on that link in your notes if you get it. But Greg Glassman has what is known as like the CrossFit Journal, and you can go on and read all these articles for free. Super dope. Like they're still on the internet. So I was like geeking out, reading some stuff, and I came across this article, What is Fitness? And that's where they came up with like the 3 or 4 different ways of measuring fitness. The CrossFit Games absolutely does not measure fitness. It's the different models that they talk about. The hopper model, where they pull a random workout out of a hat and you're able to do it. Like, can you throw a baseball and then run a mile, deadlift? Like, can you do all those different things? A triathlete or a heptathlete or a decathlete, in the track and field world, I would put those in like, kind of the able to do anything sort of workout deal. Then they look at the physical skills, which we'll talk about, and the sickness wellness continuum. So it's like a gas gauge sort of deal. Where do you fall on the sickness wellness continuum? Are you somewhere in between? And the energy systems, the glycolytic, phosphagen, the anaerobic, aerobic energy systems. So in short, CrossFit is a means to gain fitness. And like I said, they were the first, maybe still the only one that has defined fitness. And I really, really liked it. So for me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, CrossFit definition of fitness, is it not relevant for birth, work capacity across broad times and modal domains? Like, that's the CrossFit definition. Yeah, we got to be able to have a work capacity across different time domains and, different settings, different experiences. So I kind of geeked out on that. And then I mentioned earlier, these are some of the big players that influenced our philosophy and methodology. So there was CrossFit's definition, and then developmental kinesiology. Like I said, this comes from the Prague School of Rehab, and I really geeked out on their courses after chiropractic school. I researched them and came across them because I didn't find anybody talking about breath like I wanted to, and diastasis rectus abdominis, healing, approximating DRA like I wanted to. You know, everything I came across was very surface level, and just putting a band-aid on things. And so DNS talked about developmental kinesiology. It talked about the diaphragm breath, the stability breath. We call it the stability breath, but they call it intra-abdominal pressure, task-specific intra-abdominal pressure. And they watch a baby from infancy to being able to walk. And this is what developmental kinesiology is. And then how this baby gets from laying on their back to walking, they go through all these movement or motor milestones. It doesn't matter where the baby is in the world, every single human goes through these motor milestones, these achievements. And that is what our BirthFit Basics is based on. Babies are born with DRA, and they approximate their DRA by going through these developmental milestones. They have to be able to use their diaphragm and breathe in a dead bug position. Why we have dead bug? Before they can roll over, before they can push up to an oblique sit, before they can roll into a tabletop position and then crawl. If they're stabilizing the sagittal plane, then they're stabilizing on one side, and then they're starting to incorporate cross body fascial slings. All right, so yes, we utilize functional movements. They're innate, they're natural. I know functional movement is a buzzword, but I couldn't think of a better word. These are, like I said, every human being's got to be able to do these basic human movements, these functional foundational movements. I talked about the 3 metabolic pathways. You're absolutely going to need all of these for birth. You labor for 3 days and then you got to push the baby out, or you labor for 12 hours. You got to be able to get your baby out at the end. Here's the 5 skills I touched on. These were brought to light by a company called Dynamex, and we focus on endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, which I call range of motion, and balance and stability. That's what we focus on. Then, if you want to progress your athletic endeavors, you can focus on power, speed, coordination, agility, and accuracy. This gets into the 5 physical skills. You can read that if you want. But the essence of our programming, right, is brought to you by myself and Leah. We introduced ourselves earlier, and we combine our experience in programming, we combine our education and our style inside of training for the motherhood transition. Here's some other names that, definitely influenced our programming. You can see that below. But I like to think of BirthFit's programming as a harmonic blend of strength and conditioning, powerlifting, odd object lifting and carrying, gymnastics, like basic gymnastics, strength, endurance, skill, range of motion, stability, triphasic muscle contraction. So not just operating in the, concentric phase of training, triplanar motion, the polyvagal theory, like we want our bodies to feel safe. And then of course, DNS, functional range conditioning, energy systems, recovery, rep ranges, intuition, all of it. That's the blend of the BirthFit programming. So I wanted to get here because I wanted to show y'all some training day templates. And you'll get these like I'm already hitting the buzzer pretty soon. But our training days are what we like to think of as a polyvagal theory sandwich. So we start with a mind-body connection, like a conversation with our body. What's our body telling us today? Is today a good day to lift heavy, run fast, or is it a good day to just kind of like do a movement flow? In the middle, strength and conditioning, that's where we activate the sympathetics. Then we finish with a mind-body connection. So this is what it looks like, our training day: mind-body connection, strength or skill, fitness and conditioning, mind-body reflection. Fitness and conditioning, EMOMs are great. Every minute on the minute or intervals are great for training for birth. But this is all going to look different depending on what season you're in. So if we're in the first bit of postpartum, in the BIRTHFIT basics program, rehabbing our body again, mind body connection piece might be just breathing. It might be breathing in a walk. The strength might be dead bug. The fitness and conditioning might be a baby wearing walk. Mind body reflection piece might be feet up a wall breathing. It's all going to look different inside of each chapter. So, I do want to share this little tidbit. Strength training is critical for motherhood, and we're the only bipedal weight-bearing mammal. The core and pelvic floor, which is this whole canister, y'all, we need to have a core and pelvic floor masterclass after this, but diaphragm, pelvic floor, cylinder. Diaphragm and pelvic floor always work in unison together. The pelvic floor is never isolated, doing its own thing. Whenever we take a breath, we inhale, everything naturally lowers and expands. Whenever we exhale, everything naturally returns back to neutral. There's no sucking in or pulling your belly button to your spine. That's a regular diaphragm human breath. And that's what DNS says. That's why I geeked out on DNS. And that's what we teach within our programs. We have to be able to bear load. And that's where the stability breath comes into play. We have to be able to manage our own internal pressure system. So in a stability breath, the inhale is the same. Everything we inhale, diaphragm, pelvic floor, lower, expand. But on the exhale, our pelvic floor and like that range of motion that we gained, the muscles in and around the core section, naturally kind of resist that pressure that was created. So they're functioning in that eccentric phase, that elongated muscle phase. Now, we need the pelvic floor to function in concentric and eccentric to be able to have strength throughout that whole breath. So we have to absolutely be able to weight bear again. I feel so my heart sinks for women that are told, don't ever lift weights again because you have a prolapse. No, that's absolutely incorrect. Like, we have to be able to bear load again. We have to do it with intentional training and rehab. There was a study in 2016 that found that the mode of exercise with the greatest maternal health benefits is a combination of aerobic and resistance training during pregnancy. You know what that tells me? That's good old-fashioned strength training. So why not BIRTHFIT? All right, BIRTHFIT basics. I mentioned to y'all that they are free. They're on YouTube. We also have the prenatal basics, postpartum basics, where you can follow along. We basically make the program for you. You'll see the basics, in each program. It may be the whole training, it may be the warm up or the cool down, but they are part of our training. And like I said, we incorporate foundational human movements: the squat, the lunge, the hinge, and these are all kind of variations of those movements. We are only limited by our creativity. Push, pull, carries. Here's some other examples. And then, if they have a line under them, it links to our video links of it. So you'll see all of these movements throughout our programming. And like I said, you can walk away today and program for yourself if you want to. Here are some sample days. So this would be a first trimester, day 1, week 9. This is straight from our program. Week 9 is usually the biggest week of nausea and morning sickness and just crummy feeling. So maybe we only do the mind-body connection piece for the day. That would be 10 reps total. So, 10 dead bugs, 5 on each side, 5 bird dogs, 5 side planks, 5 breaths in high bear, 10 shin box. This takes about less than 2 minutes to get through. Then fitness, okay, it could be, accumulate 25 calories on the bike or the rower, or 2-minute shuttle run, or 2 minutes of low box step ups, or 2 minutes of like a walk, go out and back 200 meters. And you just go through this list. This is like what we call a chipper. The end of this, we have a strength section and then a mind body reflection piece. Reflection, like, how did that training feel? Do I feel safe in my body still? Do I feel confident with what I did? Now, if somebody's feeling nauseous, sick, we might say, hey, just do the mind body connection piece, see how you feel. Okay. A lot of times that shifts energy. They feel pretty good. They're able to go on. Sometimes women feel still kind of crummy. They're like, I'm just going to do the mind body connection piece, the strength and the reflection. They opt out of the conditioning piece. Totally fine. All right. Here's a sample day from second trimester, week 21. So prenatal dead bug, you can kind of see where the BIRTHFIT basics hang out. Now dumbbell step ups or walking lunges, 5 rounds. You'll see crawling start to show up in our program. Crawling is so good for helping baby and mom get into optimal positions. And you'll see lots of intervals or different time domains. If you think about it, contraction is anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds. The peak of a contraction is 10 to 15 seconds, like of intensity. So if we can, that's my dog, if we can hang out and if we can hang out with this interval and kind of embrace it and then rest, now we're starting to think along the lines of labor. And then we down regulate at the end of training. Here's a training day for week 34. You can kind of see how the movements change, the variations show up. So sumo squat, right? Now we're in this wide stance and we're really like going slow down, slow up. Tempo is great for joints. Now continuous workflow. Move through this for 12 minutes. All right. And then here's a sample of the Lion In program. I want you to nurse in the sunshine today and give a belly massage. So there's different things that show up like that in the Lion In program, just simple reminders. Here's a sample day from the BIRTHFIT Basics. Postpartum, this would be day 3. So as I mentioned, right, it's going to look different for each chapter: mind-body connection, strength and conditioning, mind-body reflection. And then here's postpartum training. As we finally get into it, this would be week 3, day 1. We're starting to up the kind of aerobic capacity a little bit here. But we're still like, strength is super important at the beginning of that postpartum training. So as we've completed the basics, now we're incorporating a lot of single side, single leg, single arm strength training stuff. All right. I didn't mention this yet, but what's great about our programs, obviously everything we discussed prior, all the thought and intention that goes into it. But the cool thing is most of our training days are 30 to 45 minutes, require minimal equipment. They're made by moms for moms. So if you need anything, there's the connection piece. So emails, YouTube, the YouTube channel. But if you ever want a discount on our programs, use that code right there, webinar 20. Webinar's got to be in all caps. And then let's get to the questions. All right. Ew. All right, so I hit it right at 12, but let me see if I can answer any questions. How is the program useful for someone in a preconception stage? So actually, we have a digital, like an ebook, a short ebook in our shop for cyclical strength and conditioning. And it gives you insight as to how to train. It doesn't have training just yet. I want to go back and edit it and put 12 weeks of training in there. But I will be sharing some insight as to programs that I recommend for women in the future. You can, like, I would say get familiar with the basics, because I did the basics obviously for 10 years before conceiving. I used the basics with when I was still seeing, general population on top of pregnancy and postpartum. They're great, for somebody that has a disc injury or somebody that's gone through a surgery. The basics are absolutely, like I said, foundational human movements. So that's where I would start preconception for sure. And then being mindful of how you train within your cycle to feel safe and unobserved. Yes. Yes, I love it too. I need to get my youngest. Oh, being 12 months postpartum and now 7 weeks pregnant, should I focus on prenatal or postpartum? Now, this is a great question, and I get this a ton. It's kind of a blend. So you're 7 weeks. I would start with the BirthFit Basics prenatal program or the BirthFit Basics on your own, whatever you want to do. You're in the early window. So I would almost lean, like, while you're still in the early pregnancy, lean towards rehab, see where kind of asymmetries are in your body. And then, once you kind of get over the hump of the first trimester, shift into full prenatal training mode. Cool. Yeah. Because there's a lot, and I hate for women to like beat themselves up. Like, one of my girlfriends got pregnant at like 3 months postpartum. Like, she's got three under three now. But there's so much healing and recovery that happens in that first year postpartum, maybe 2 years, we don't know. Like, each woman's different. So see if anything comes up, movement body wise for you. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. Yeah. Okay, in my second trimester, is it better to buy the whole prenatal program or just the second and third? Oh, actually, if you're in your second, just do the second and third for sure. Yeah. Thank you. Really appreciate you putting this together. It's great. I'm the one that's been bugging you on Instagram. You're probably not the only one. 12 months postpartum and feel like I've lost a lot of balance and strength. Okay. I will share it with y'all. We get women that are 2 years postpartum, 5 years postpartum, and our recommendation is always go back to the BirthFit basics. So if you're 12 months postpartum, Kathleen, you may do the BirthFit basics every day. When I did the BirthFit basics, I was 2 months postpartum, and I did it every other day. I just felt like that was more appropriate for me. I did a baby wearing walk in between, but you do the basics and then go into postpartum training. And that'll be training for about 4 months. And then ideally you feel really good. So let me know. All right, y'all, I got time for one or two more questions if you got them. I know we need to have a core and pelvic floor masterclass again. It's been a while. Should I purchase the BirthFit Basics program or follow on YouTube? Well, I'm always going to say purchase the program because it's so intentional. But if you want to try a few movements out on your own, you're more than welcome to. Would you do postpartum or prenatal? Putting this together. I can't remember where you were. Oh, preconception. Oh, that's right. Try a few on YouTube, and then you could totally do the prenatal program, because it incorporates walking, and it's 30 sessions. So you can stretch it out over 2 months, 3 days, whatever. But it really gives you a foundation of kind of what the BirthFit basics are and some coaching with it. Excuse me. So hit up YouTube first, try it out, use that discount code, and then do the prenatal stuff if you want. Yeah, let me pull that up. How can I make sure to get in the coach course? Oh, damn, you missed out. Well, I won't let that happen. We are more than likely going to open, if you're on the wait list, that's good. Yeah, I want you to implement this with your gym and yourself and your whole community ASAP. More than likely, we'll open it back up late spring, early summer, and then calls will start again in the fall. So as long as you're on that wait list, Ivy, I recognize that. And even if it's full and you miss it and you hit me up, now that I know, I'll remember this and we'll get you in there. Let me find the links to the program. Cool. Yeah, our coach course is freaking awesome. Like we get into this more, but I just we have office hours for our coaches and I just did one yesterday. And one of our coaches, gym owners, they're outside of Atlanta. They're super cool. They're leading preconception stuff for their community. And just think how cool, like they're going to be able to follow this group all the way through. I love it. Okay, here's here's prenatal. Why did that come in? Paste. How long will we have access to the programs upon purchase? Oh, good question. All of our programs are available for 1 year from purchase date. And that's mainly because we update our programs a lot. Like we listen to feedback, we send out surveys, and we I call it upgrade them as often as we can. So like just this week, I had somebody reach out, hey, I purchased this program, the online program in 2016. I was like, oh my God, no, you don't have access. Like it's a completely different program than what it was. So 1 year from purchase date, and I promised you, like it's totally worth it. If for some reason something happens, you can't get to it, let us know. Like we're not evil. Let us know. Okay, there's the link for prenatal. There's the link for postpartum programs. All right, y'all. It's been great chatting with you. You will get the recording probably in the next day or so. And if you have any questions, if anything comes up, if you watch this again, go through the slides, let me know. Just respond to the email or send me a DM or whatever. I'm really stoked y'all are here. And if you're one of the 100 women watching this from a recording, yes, reach out if you have any questions. I hope you'll have a great Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, right? All right. Bye, y'all.